What's up, Airgunners? Let's talk upgrades, modifications, or just buy new. And this kind of comes back to the Airguns with modular design. The whole thing of being able to swap out barrels and calibers and power and shot count and tanks, you name it. You know, the sky's the limit. I've kind of gone back and forth. I've been burned in the past on upgrading, and I kind of want to share some of these things with you. So let's first indicate the difference between an upgrade and a modification. If we're looking at the differences, I would say an upgrade is you're dealing with the accuracy of the rifle, and it's less intrusive. It's more along the lines of, you know, you have certain expectations. Maybe you want it to be a little quieter. Maybe you want a little bit more shot count or a little bit more accuracy. And that's not, you know, out of the realms of being realistic. It's just one of those things that you have to take into consideration of management. So if you're going to get into upgrading, if you can't measure your accuracy really well, you won't be able to manage it. And the problems I've had in the past is I'll order an FX gun and I'll add, you know, I'll buy all these extra add-ons right out of the box, like right with the gun. And that's a big mistake because you have the urgency of just putting it all in at once. So the stress would be this: the gold standard for accuracy, let's just go with it, is 1 MOA. And that's 1 inch at 100 yards. If you can achieve that, that's really, really good. I'd probably indication 95% of the people can't shoot that, even with the perfect gun. If you can shoot that, awesome. But if you're going to upgrade, this is the lure of the upgrades. Well, maybe I could get better than 1 inch. You got to weigh that, you know, risk versus reward. And if you have all these upgrades, you can't put them in at one time. I've done this. And all of a sudden your accuracy is worse. And you're like, oh, what went wrong? Is it the moderator? Is the tank? Is it my regulator? Is it the carbon fiber sleeve? So you have to do it one at a time, very meticulous. And this gets tough. And the accuracy thing at 1 inch, guys, you know, they build these guns mass produced, but they also have kind of like an ideal gun that they're trying to deal with. If you're trying to improve on that, it's difficult. And the tighter your groups are, if you're less than 1 inch, 0.9, 0.8, your difficulty of making it a 0.5 is exponentially hard. It's not like it's the same. If you have 5-inch groups, you could take that gun and probably easily make it into a 4 or 3-inch group gun. It's when you keep getting smaller and smaller, the difficulty and the accuracy and the tolerances are that much tougher to make it work. So just know, sometimes you could just back off and leave it as it is. That's kind of the reason why Ted Beers, I think that's his name, he indicated his 25 cal that he won the Rocky Mountain Air Challenge with. He just leaves it as is. He does not mess with it. That's his gold standard gun. Every other gun, I guess, is measured against. And I have one of those myself. I have one rifle. I'm not doing a thing to it. Everything else can kind of revolve around the accuracy of that, and you're pretty much going. But upgrades, or I should say modifications, now are quite a bit of difference. And that's where you start getting into the price versus reward, and should you buy new. The modifications, changing the barrel, changing the shot count drastically, or changing the power of it, or changing the accuracy to a greater extent, way out there using slugs or something like that. Well, this gets kind of a little more clear cut. You could just go by the rule that the more you change the power and the caliber from the gun it is now to the gun you want it to be is kind of a red flag. If you want to go from a 177 to a 357, that should be a red flag. And the other thing is, if you want to go back. So my initial impression of these modular guns is the fact that I could just go from a 177 to a 357, 357 back to a 177 within an hour, and everything was fine. But the reality of the situation is, if your 177 or 22 is shooting at the gold standard, you have to wipe it out, bring in titanium springs, all this stuff, bring in all this extra gear to make your 357 shoot at 1 MOA or gold standard. And then you have to go back. That's going to be tough. That's going to be frustrating. So the reason why I have this rifle with you, this is a Air Force Talon P, and it's in a 177 right now at 14 foot-pounds. It's a normal rifle. I converted over from a 25 that shoots 50 foot-pounds. It's a super small rifle. The difference with this is the fact that it'll take me probably maybe 4 bolts and a little cap to go from 50 foot-pounds down to 14 and back and forth. And you're probably saying, well, why would you do that much? That's a huge change. But there's one thing that kind of throws it out. The change is easy. There's not a lot to these guns, but the accuracy isn't that great either. It's not at an FX or Daystate or Vulcan or Edgun, you know, right now. It will not shoot. It's 1 inch at 50 yards. So I feel very confident that I can go from a 177 to a 25 because my expectations in accuracy isn't that much, and there's a few switches here and there and I'm done. So just put that in mind. That's a little bit different, but if your expectations are in accuracy and power, everything's going from one extreme to the other, like me, I've come to the conclusion, I'll just buy a whole nother rifle. I'll just buy a whole nother gun. And it's just the things I've been burned on. We kind of go through these little dreams of how everything's supposed to work and how people sell you on all these extra parts and the accuracy and, oh, you can just go from one rifle to the other. You don't need to. Just about everybody I know, they end up buying another rifle. And they've spent $500, $600 on all these additional parts and barrels and kits. That's just my own experience. You might be a lot more experienced, but where I'm at right now, if I need to, and there's a drastic change, you could buy 2 rifles. You could buy, instead of buying a really expensive $2,000 rifle, you could buy 2 $1,000 rifles and be happy with the performance there. And there's no fuss, there's no muss. Just switch, take out the rifle you want for the job that you want. Little small pests, yeah, you can use a 177, 357 for bigger, larger animals. And that's it, guys. That's kind of the take on, you know, upgrading, modifying, or buying new. Comments, questions below. You guys might want to hit that subscribe button, and hopefully I'll see you next week.